That said, I'd like to introduce Tom Medhurst. He's actually orchestrating the event tonight, and so Tom, you're up.
Thank you for coming, everybody. First presentation would be Tracy Jemison. Come on up and have a seat. Fred Welty. Have a seat. I sat in the middle only not to keep people going at each other.
Where's the box?
Just so that they can see the clock. We're going to use this for time conserve. So the format is going to be that Chris will ask a question. You'll each have 3 minutes to answer it. But before that, we're going to begin with, we mentioned for you to give a 3-minute elevator speech. Tell Fred what that is. Just if you're riding up on an elevator with the CEO of your company, you want to make the best presentation you can in about 2 minutes. So that's what we ask you to do. Just tell everybody who you are and what you're about. And then after we ask the question, you'll have 3 minutes to answer them. And then we'll go to the next person, ask the same question. You've had the questions in advance, so you pretty much know what this is. That's why we think we can do a pretty short format on time.
John, let me interrupt real quick, just so that everybody knows. Sorry, Chris. Just so that everybody knows, this event is being recorded tonight. It's being videotaped. That's so that there's no surprises, and it will be posted online. So I mean, I'm letting candidates know that, and I'm letting the audience know that, so that there's no confusion over that. So go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
I think we started with seniority. Tracy is an incumbent, so we thought we would start with him. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, first off, thank you for inviting me here tonight. I want to tell you that this June I celebrated my 30th year working for Geauga County, and I want to thank you for the privilege of allowing me to do so. Back about 60 years ago, I was born in Corey Hospital in Chardon, so I'm a lifelong resident of Geauga County. I lived 30 years in Middlefield Village, where I served on their zoning board of appeals when I was about 19, 20 years old, and then I ran for office. Actually, I ran when I was 19 and lost, and then they gave me an appointment to the zoning board of appeals, and then I won when I was 21 and served there 8 years. Then we moved to Burton, where I thought, well, geez, you know, I'm kind of done with politics. I'm working at the county now. I'm just happy, but I got very concerned about educational issues in our community, and then, of course, I ran for the Berkshire School Board, and I served there for 4 years. I started working at the county in 1982, and I worked for the county auditor shortly after that time. And when he passed away suddenly in 1995, I got the appointment to become auditor. And I had the privilege to serve as your auditor for 13 years. I think that during that time I was able to take that office into the 21st century with the technology we put in. Access Geauga was one of the things. I don't know how many people have been out on the website, but Access Geauga was done under our watch. We had perfect audits during that time, and certainly numerous awards for our accountability in our reports. Then 2008 came, and I felt that it was important for me to look at the county in a different area, and that was as county commissioner. It was about that time we got into a recession. And so all of a sudden, the county's plodding along pretty good, and now all of a sudden revenues are down about 18 to 20%. And so, you know, we had to really work hard in trying to balance that budget, continue to pay our debt, and move the county forward. I think when you compare how we made it through the recession, or still making it through, I'm not sure it's over in my eyes, but and look at how other counties, we did not go to the avenue of saying, hey, we got to raise taxes. We lived with the revenue that we had. And if we're down 18%, we're down 18%. We're not crying about it. We understand that you're down too. And our position was, it is what it is, and we're going to do whatever it takes to balance the budget and provide those services. We did so, and Moody's in 2010 actually upgraded our bond rating from a AA2 to a AA1. One more step, you're a AAA. They reaffirmed it in 2011 and 2012, something that we're very proud of, because we think that's an outside agency that looks at how we've run government and looked at it very favorably.
Thanks, time.
Thank you. I'd like to again thank Tom for inviting me, and I'd like to thank all of you for inviting me to speak to you. Yes, I'm on the other side of the fence, but, you know, really here in Geauga County, the fence is not that much of a divide. I think we could, Tracy and I think we pretty much agreed that we're having an amicable campaign. My name is Fred Welby. Probably no one here knows me except for the few of you who are associated with Democrats, and well, Mary, I guess we've met, and Tracy and I have met. I'm not a birthright Geaugian. I moved here, well, it'll be 19 years in November. I was born and raised in Lakewood, graduated from Lakewood High School, went to Earlham College, went to Columbia University for my master's in education. Taught for 31 years. I had a split career in teaching. I taught elementary school for 16 years, taught all the grades, first grade through sixth grade, with the exception of fifth. That's the only grade that well, I shouldn't say I missed that grade, because I was a fifth grader at one time, but I never taught fifth grade. Then decided to pursue my interest in physics, and became certified to teach physics. For 15 years I taught physics at Shaker Heights High School, and enjoyed the career very much. It's been a very satisfying career, and Tracy and I were kind of comparing, both of us have been in public service for all of our career. Different aspects of public service, but still neither of us were getting rich doing what we were doing, but it was a very satisfying career. I'm running for county commissioner for one reason. I moved out here because I really love this place. This is a great county. It's kind of semi-rural. I mean, it's not so far away that I feel that everything is very remote and I've got to drive 50 miles to get anywhere. But still, it's nice and rural. There are farms, fields, forests. I look out my window and there are deer walking across my front lawn. I love that. Having been born in the city, I'm sure many of you have been born in this. Were born in the city in a suburb, and I mean this is a delight. And probably those of you who were born out here also appreciate that very much. I want to keep Geauga County rural, and that's what I'm working for. And you'll hear more about that in a little bit. Thank you.
First question, we'll start with Mr. Jemison. Explain the responsibilities of the county commissioner and how you have fulfilled that role.
Under the High Revised Code, there's some set responsibilities. Number one is the budget. We are responsible for the budget. We sign all contracts. No one can enter into any contracts in the county and obligate the county funds other than the county commissioners. We also are the ones who hold title to all property. All property is placed under the Board of County Commissioners' names. We also have, there's certain departments that are under our auspices, the building department, job and family services, community and economic development, the dog warden, Geauga Transit, the county home, so there's some others. And that is our responsibility. How I think that we fulfilled that is, and I kind of briefly touched on that, but you know, the number one thing is the budget. We have probably a $26 million general fund, and total funds are probably close to about $100 million. And we've been able to, I think we've done an excellent job in balancing that budget, delivering those services, and as I indicated, Moody's felt also. Just by upgrading our bond rating. We were hoping to come through with just the bond rating, just maintaining it. And I can remember when I was talking to them with County Auditor Frank Galea, and I said afterwards, I said, I'm not even sure I would loan us any money. And because it was in a position where we weren't used to. We weren't used to in 2009 seeing our revenues going down like this when we'd seen them increase. And they were dropping very fast. And we told them our story, but we also told them how we were handling that story. And you know, we've remained steadfast in making sure that we pay off our debt. You know, the jail was a $14.7 million project. 4.2 million of that was a grant. And so that left us with $10.5 million. We had saved some money prior to that. When I was auditor, I went to the county commissioners and said, about 1999, we need to go in and we need to start saving, we need to pay off our debt and then start saving some money. We went into that project with about $3 million. So we ended up borrowing the rest. We've been very aggressive. We were paying it down at $1 million a year. Actually, one year I think we paid down $1.5 million, and then the recession came. We still felt we needed to pay it down. Our original goal was we were going to pay it off in 5 years. We ended up extending that to 10 within 10 years of when it's open. But we're doing so by notes, rolling notes over every year. Had we bonded that out and we looked at it, we did an analysis of 23-year bonds, and by putting it in notes, and in notes, when we did the analysis, we used 3.5%. We're now borrowing money at 0.51%. And in that analysis, we were going to save $1.8 million.
Great.
Okay. Mr. Welty, explain the responsibilities of the county commissioner and how you would fulfill that role if you were elected.
Well, I really can't add a great deal to what Tracy has said because, of course, Tracy has been a county commissioner for some years and has seen the work of the county commissioner from the inside. I have not. I've seen it from the outside. I read the agenda, I get emails of the agenda, read some of the minutes. It's basically a job of overseer, of keeping track of the various departments that are under the supervision of the county commissioners, making sure that everything runs well, eliminating redundancies where they exist. But it's not until I get into the job that I'd be able to see the kind of detail of the work that is necessary in order to make any adjustments that are required. And it is work, I can tell, with a lot of detail to it. It's attention, very careful attention to detail, and going by the numbers. This is perhaps one of the similarities with physics. It goes by the numbers. And I can remember when I was doing my upper class physics courses down at CSU to become certified, that one of my fellow students was pointing out, you may think you understand a concept, but until you can solve the problems with numbers, you don't really know what's going on. And I think that's probably true with county commissioner. And Tracy, you've demonstrated that yes, you know the numbers, you know the percentages, you know the things that need to be considered to keep our the interest rate that we have to pay as low as possible, and to run the county very efficiently. And so what can I hope to bring? What adjustments would I hope to make? Well, what I can say is that I would bring a new pair of eyes to looking at the problems that the county has, and I would have a first day on the job. Tracy, you've already had a first day on the job. That first day, I know, having had first days on the job with teaching, that can be kind of a rough day, but you learn quickly, and I would have a new perspective. That's really all that I can promise, that I would bring my best thinking and my new perspective to addressing the problems of the county.
Okay, that leads into the second question, and Mr. Welty, you'll go first this time. In your opinion, what are the top 3 issues that are most important to the Geauga County residents, and how do you plan to address them?
I'm so happy you got to this. Can I stand up when I talk about this? I feel in a speechifying mood. This is the reason that I got into this race. It was in the early spring of last year, I started reading articles, mostly in the New York Times, but other news sources as well, about fracking. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, it's an abbreviation of the term hydraulic fracturing of horizontally drilled gas wells and oil wells. Around here, it's gas wells. In North Dakota, it's oil wells. The fracking itself is old. In fact, here in Geauga County, we've had an example of fracking of traditionally drilled vertical wells. The house that exploded in Bainbridge in 2007. That happened 1 month after a nearby gas well was fracked. Gas came into the aquifer, into the house, and you get the right mixture of gas and oxygen, and you get an explosion. It doesn't just burn, it explodes. Fortunately, the couple that lived in the house survived. Earlier, there was a house in 1991 where the occupant did not survive. This is serious. As I looked into this more and more, I thought the idea of putting toxic chemicals into the ground under high pressure, fracturing rock, that's a bad idea. You know, we have brownfields in Cleveland, areas where there have been factories and they just dump toxic chemicals out on the ground. Those are not difficult to cure. You bring in a front end loader and some trucks and you haul away the first yard, 2 yards of topsoil, bring in new topsoil. Everything's okay because the pollution is there on the surface. This is not pollution on the surface. This is pollution that comes from underground. Now, the gas and oil industry are coming up with well, I'm running out of time, but let me just say, I want to keep Geauga County rural. I don't want it a sacrifice zone for the gas industry. And I'm afraid that's what it's going to be. In one of the opening shots in Gasland, they have an aerial view of western Wyoming, and the land is just pockmarked with these 5-acre well pads with the access roads and pipes going along them. I don't want that for Geauga County. I want it to be a rural, pleasant place to live.
In your opinion, what are the top 3 issues that are most important to county residents, and how do you plan to address them?
I think the number one is jobs. We currently have about 5.7% unemployment. That is probably one of the lowest in the state of Ohio, but if you're one of those 5.7% of people without a job, then that number is way too high. What we've done is we've reached out and brought together all our economic development groups. We created was part of a public-private partnership with the Geauga Growth Partnership, where we brought actually businesses. You know, government doesn't know how to create jobs. All they know how to do is to tax those jobs. But it is government's responsibility to create an atmosphere that fosters where businesses want to grow and thrive. And so what we did is we brought in business people, and we created an organization called the Geauga Growth Partnership. And we did so because what we found out in 2008 was we had 3 large companies leave Geauga County. They didn't call us, and we didn't call them, because we didn't have any network. And the reason is that what's businesses most of the time don't trust government, right? So why are they going to call them, especially when they're in trouble? So we needed to build that relationship, and we used the Growth Partnership to do that. And then we branch out and we use our economic development department to help with loans, low-interest loans for businesses so that they can grow. And we look at our job and family services through the one-stop to develop a workforce, which is actually the number 2 problem I see, is that we have companies now with 5.7 or 6%, 6.5% unemployment that can't find skilled labor in our area. And we need to change that, because eventually things are going to turn around, and when they do, businesses are going to look at areas where they can depend on the quality of the workforce. And that workforce needs to be one that has besides the hard skills, it also needs to be one that has the soft skills. And that means that, you get to work on time, you can pass a drug test, and you come to work, every day. And those are the things sometimes we find that we're having trouble with in our workforce. And I'm afraid that when things do break, companies are going to look at areas that provide that workforce, and we need to do that. The other issue that we need to certainly monitor is one that Fred brought up, fracking. My take on the fracking is, and I've done a lot of research on it, is that, well, there's no stopping it. It's gonna happen, so let's make sure we do it responsibly. And by that, I mean is that, when Fred talked about the Bainbridge incident, when they drill through the aquifer, here in Ohio, they put down 3 vertical pipes. When they cement that is critical, and we need to make sure that there's inspectors there. In Bainbridge, that's where the problem in Bainbridge. That was where the issue was, and why that gas seeped up in there. I could go into that a little farther, sir.
Okay, Mr. Jemison? Geauga County is in the top 10% of the nation in property taxes. Additionally, there are user fees, which are really hidden taxes, which we pay to Columbus. What would you do, if anything, about this?
Well, I can talk a little bit about what we did when, at one point in time, when I was county auditor, and I was actually president of the County Auditor Association. The state, at one point in time, in an effort to balance their budget, they decided they wanted to have part of the transfer tax. If you're familiar with the transfer tax, is that in Geauga County, 0.4% on the sale price is paid as a transfer fee. That's all resides here. Well, they wanted to add to that, and so that we could send them more money down, send money down to Columbus. Our association, to the County Auditors Association, was very successful in being able to stop that. It hasn't been stopped in other areas. The county recorder has a fee. I think that's probably gone on now 8 to 10 years. That used to, I think it's $8 a page to record a deed, and for every page, that's locally, and then the state added $8 on top of that goes to the state. So, what you need to do is you need to make your legislatures aware of that, and hopefully through your associations you can try to stop that. We've always resisted that we end up being the collector of the state taxes, and so that answers it.
Good.
Mr. Welty? In Geauga County, is in the top 10% of the nation in property taxes. And additionally, there's these user fees, which are really hidden taxes, which we pay to Columbus. What would you do, if anything, about these taxes?
Well, I really like the level of services that we enjoy here in Geauga County. The schools, the parks, the roads. The fact that this is a very safe place to live. I'm not worried about my house being broken into, even though there's no one there. Fire protection, snow removal. I'm getting older, and I know there are senior services that will be available one of these years that I can take advantage of. I don't want services reduced. Also, I feel that those people who serve the public and serve the public well should receive a just, fair salary. So I don't really see the tax rate here in Geauga County as being a problem. Now, I know that probably runs counter to the thinking of most of you. But every year I drive into Chardon with my checkbook and pay my $3,300 property taxes. And I'm not unhappy about doing that because I feel I'm getting value for my money. I don't think I'd want to live in a county where the property taxes are so low that the services are reduced. So yes, I think that if I become an elected official, that yes, I should be very careful and not waste money, not spend it lavishly, not spend it on things that we really don't need, that don't serve the people. But on the other hand, we are a very wealthy county. We are one of the 2 wealthiest counties in the state of Ohio. So it would make sense that we spend some of our money on the goods and services that the county provides. If I objected to those taxes, then I guess I would have chosen a different county. But no, I really like it here. And I'm willing to pay for it, just as I'm willing to pay for the food that I buy in the supermarket. I don't buy the cheapest food. I don't buy the cheapest clothes. I don't live in the cheapest place. And if I don't want the cheapest, I have to pay for it.
Mr. Welty, this is the last question. Explain why you are a Democrat.
I can summarize this in one word, and then I'll expand on it. Empathy. I can remember, and it's just my characteristic. I remember this beginning back in high school, that as I began to become aware of the fact that I lived in kind of a nice situation, as middle class, right in the middle of Lakewood, not the rich part of Lakewood, not the part of Lakewood where houses were real close together, but the middle of the middle. And I was pretty lucky. But then I became aware that there are people that are living in situations that are a whole lot worse. And in college, I became involved in the civil rights movement. I went to Washington when Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech. I was there on the Mall. I was really moved by that, deeply moved. I feel what happens to other people who are less fortunate than I am. And I have felt that over the years, the Democratic Party, not always, but often, is the party that promotes those policies which are in harmony with that feeling. I worked on LBJ's campaign, the Voter Rights Act. That was really big. Of course, it cost the Democratic Party, the South, but I was really glad when that was passed. Medicare. That, I think, is extremely important. And again, it makes me sad to think that there used to be older people who could not afford the medical attention that they needed. Now it's no longer an issue. The Democratic Party has not always done the things that I wished. After I worked to help do my modest bit to help LBJ get elected, he also started the war in Vietnam, which I did not correspond to that feeling of empathy. And there are many things that Republicans have done which do. For instance, Richard Nixon, as much as he is pilloried, he did pass some very good legislation. Affirmative action and Endangered Species Act. And I can go through other presidents of both parties. But I think that by and large, I found that it's been the Democrats who have... I'll stop.
Mr. Jemison, why are you a Republican?
Well, first and foremost, less government. And I'll tell you a little story. When I was 19 years old, why did I run for village council? Because our council at that time, and mayor, wanted to pass an ordinance that we could only have one garbage company that we had to do business with in the village. Now, I understand the rationale. The rationale is, of course, you only have one truck going down the road instead of 2 or 3. But in my opinion, that was way out of bounds for the government to tell us who we were going to do business with. And so anyway, that's actually what fueled my my career in politics, and still does. I mean, I think that government needs to be limited. There were times in the auditor's office where we had a lot of pressure on us to change our rules and regulations to not transfer property unless it met zoning. That's not what we're there for. We're not there to be the zoning enforcers. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with zoning. I'm just saying is that in the auditor's office, we're to transfer a piece of property. As long as you have a legal description, that's what should happen. And we'll transfer a postage stamp if that was what needed to be done. So there's been times throughout my career that I hopefully have tried to do that and do that well. The other is, of course, less taxes. I always felt that the Republicans stood for less taxes. We proved that, I think, in 1995 when I went to the county commissioners and said that we were having a reappraisal, and that instead of taking the growth that we'd have gotten from our reappraisal, which I don't know was $3 or $4, maybe $500,000 at that time, that we should cut the inside millage. There was a law passed at that time that allowed us to be able to cut the inside millage if we had a sales tax and reserve it. Your inside millage is unvoted. There's 10 mills in Geauga County, there's 10 mills in every county in the state. We had 2.5 of those. We cut it down to 2.3 mills in '96, and then in '99 we did another 10, so we had 3/10 of a mill. Not a lot. You know, on $100,000, that's probably 31. It's about $3. You know, but it was government going in the right direction instead of raising taxes. And then the county commissioners, the next time around, felt that they were starting to build a jail and needed to put that back on. It's my hope that someday that we can return to that. The other, of course, is the free enterprise system. You know, I don't think anybody should apologize for making money or how much money they make, as long as they work hard every day and go to work, and it's a risk and reward. I was a small businessman. We were a small business in Middlefield with my mom and my wife and I, and you know, it was a risk and reward. And nobody should say, hey, you know, you're not allowed to make that money, and because we're the ones that had to worry about making payroll. And so those are the reasons.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's it. That's all the questions. Okay. On time.
Okay, to introduce the next two candidates, Mary Samidi and Jim DeBoer. Just take a seat.
Okay.
You guys have any question on what to do here, or it's, 3 minutes for elevator speech? Michael, first.
Was there questions to be sent out first?
Pardon me?
Was there questions earlier to be sent out? Or?
You didn't get the email on that?
I did not get the email, so I'll do the best I can.
Okay.
It's the same question.
Same question.
Okay. And they did a nice job.
Yeah. Nobody rambled on, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready to go? Start with you, Jim.
I'm Jim Dvorak, running for Geauga County Commissioner, currently Burton Township trustee for the last 5 years, won my second election. I was voted in by my peers as Geauga County Township Association President and also the Northeast Ohio Township Association Vice President for 2 terms, and it consists of 20 counties. The reality is we have to do more with less, and I've done that in Burton Township. The first year I was in office, I revamped the healthcare system. It was a reimbursement program, and I studied it, and we turned it into uniform healthcare. Saved thousands of dollars in the first year, and we only had 5 employees. And also about doing more with less. Currently, our road department is working with 33% less manpower than ever before. Getting back to my personal life, my wife and I have been in Geauga County for 28 years. I was born and raised in the Grand Valley area. Even back then, I was student council president in 1972. But I like to get involved with as much as I can in the community that I live in. But Luann and I have lived in Geauga County for 28 years, raised 4 children. We have a granddaughter and a step-granddaughter that go to Chardon elementary schools. I just want to bring a fresh look and a proven track record to the county government. As your county commissioner, I will be a full-time commissioner with values, visions, and a passion to serve. I'm in a lot of community activities. I'm a hunter, a fisherman. I don't usually back down with our road crew or anything else. And in Burton Township, we haven't raised the taxes in 5 years. Actually, we lowered the taxes because after the auditor crunched the numbers, we did not take 1 year of revenue for our fire department, and it saved our taxpayers $21 a half year on a $100,000 home. And that is almost unheard of, and still providing the same level of services. So when you can continually provide the same level of services and cut taxes for that 1 year, I think it means a lot. And as far as crunching the numbers with healthcare, there are so many people that are laid off that need healthcare, and I just think that we could always do a better job. I'm also involved with collaboration and to make things better. You don't always change things to make it better. You make things better to be better. As far as collaboration, I was chairman of a subcommittee put on by R.L. Phillips, and we studied everybody's equipment because my background is 40 years of being in the construction industry at many different capacities, from teaching school to being foreman and now being marketing rep for the bricklayers. Thank you.
My name is Mary Smeedy, and I have been your Geauga County Commissioner for 8 years. And I want to just give you a little background before I begin. You know, it was the best of times, but it was also the worst of times. It was the spring of hope, but it was the winter of despair. You know, Charles Dickens talks about his tale of two cities, but that could be seen as a metaphor for the best and the worst in Geauga County a decade ago. Geauga was in litigation between the commissioners and the sheriff's department to the tune of over $2 million. We paid out, both sides. Needed repairs to county properties were put on hold, and departments operated on impossible budgets. Sometimes they couldn't even buy paper. Geauga was mandated to build a safety center, while union contracts were demanding more pay. Technology was limping, and communications throughout the county were in dire need of help. Solving these issues were paramount for those who were going to be commissioners in 2002 and 2004. I became a county commissioner, and I'll start a little bit. I grew up in Mayfield Heights, and I came here with my husband 45 years ago. We got married, and we've lived in the county for 45 years. We have 3 grown girls, and I have 6 grandchildren that I'm extremely proud of. I built a business in Munson Township. What happened was, when I was around 30 years old, I went back to college with an infant baby, not born yet. And I started in September, and Marla was born January 10th. And I had her, and I kept going to school, and I finished my college degree 4 years. After that, I built a computer consulting network business in Munson Township, and I've had that for 20 years, and I'm located at 10927 Mayfield Road. I gave that up when I became a county commissioner. I had a very successful business, and I understand what it's like to chase the money, to get the business, and to do it on your own back. I didn't have grants, I wasn't given money, I wasn't given low interest rates, loans. In fact, my loans were at 11%. That's what it was like in 1990. During my 8 years as your county commissioner, we have not raised taxes. We have balanced the budget consistently. We have paid down the debt of the $14.7 million safety center and have held salary increases at or below inflationary levels without cutting any services. We have increased the quality of health care benefits while keeping those costs down. The engineers union has decertified, further building trust between management and labor. We have taken care of our assets and have safeguarded the residents of Geauga both physically and monetarily. This is a story of 8 years of lean, high-performing, good government. And I'm looking for your vote. Thank you.
Okay, the first question is the same as before. Mary, explain the responsibilities of the county commissioner and how you have fulfilled that role.
Okay, the county commissioner we're really based in the Ohio Revised Code. We cannot make laws. We can only follow what the Ohio legislator has put on the books for us to follow. So we do that. We take care of the budgets. We allocate money to over almost 30 departments. And we have to make sure that each one, they're responsible. Now, each elected official is responsible for their own budget. They are personally responsible if they don't stay within their budget. Additionally, the county commissioners, we are the taxing authority, and we also are the contracting authority. So any contracts that come through the county, we have to sign them. And I know Skip asked, why do we have to keep signing these things? That's because the Ohio Revised Code has told us this is what we have to do, and this is what we do. And as a county commissioner, I follow those rules religiously because I believe in form of law, and I will do what I am allocated, what I'm supposed to do as a county commissioner.
Good.
Mr. Demore, explain the responsibilities of the county commissioner as you understand them, and how you would fulfill that role if you were elected.
Well, this would be the fourth time we went over the same
Thanks.
scenario. So it's the budget, you know, you're in charge of all the property in Geauga County, and exactly what Tracy explained the first time around. But it's based on your experience, and even if Burton Township is a very small community, you have to look at it and get as most productivity out of every situation, which creates value, and you save tax dollars. And I'm currently a 30-year trustee of the state plan and health care. And even with all the federal mandates that come down and you have to do this and you have to do that, we've kept the premiums the same for 3 years in a row and have added vision with the bricklayers' health care. And it's a self-funded plan. We don't go to an insurance company. In the Township Association, we learn things what different counties do. In Wayne County, they have a self-funded plan, and I'd like to research that and see if we could tap our Geauga County into another county that's self-insured. Because when you're self-insured, you are for service for the people and all the participants in the plan. You're not getting down on one knee with an insurance company and trying to make the best deal you can. And every time you do go out to an insurance company and you get 3, they'll lowball you, and then the next year it goes up 14 or 15%. So that's just one of the things that the fresh eyes. I want to give the county commissioners a fresh look. So that's my answer.
Okay. In your opinion, what are the top 3, this is again for you, in your opinion, what are the top 3 issues that are most important to Geauga County residents, and how do you plan to address them?
Well, first of all, like in Burton Township, it's the lowest tax base in Geauga County. And we've had some businesses that start up their business in Newberry, and when they are ready to build a building, they come to Burton Industrial Park, and it's happened one or 2 times a year in the last 2 or 3 years. So we have to keep the tax base low so that the companies will come in, and then it creates jobs. Again, I'll run on my record to keep the taxes the same and be more productive. So jobs, keeping the tax base low, and really be involved with the Geauga Growth Partnership. The one company that went from Newberry to Burton almost moved. We had help from Tracy Jemison and Judge Forrest Burt that reached out to them. Instead of going to another state, they stayed in Geauga County. And those are the things, completely communicating with the business world so we can keep them here and keep our jobs here. That's it.
And Mrs. Samidi, in your opinion, what are the top 3 issues?
I do believe it's the economy and jobs in the same way. In our first 4 years, when I was commissioner with Craig Albert and Bill Young, one of the things we had was the economic lunch bunch. We used to do this at 12 o'clock. We used to invite all the businesses in. And through that, we were able to bring 4 companies into Geauga County with no tax abatement and with no grants of any kind. Those companies are now doing very well, and I was told that one in particular, there's a company in Europe that is thinking of coming over here, and if they come here, it'll be a very big boom for Geauga County. I've always been involved with the Geauga Growth Partnership on the inception when Tracy started it, and we know that that's important. As a business owner, I'm very concerned about costs. Believe me, I know what it's like to chase the money down. I've never had, it's a difficult thing to do, and I think taxes are high, and but you've got to look at where those taxes are coming from. the big bite of your taxes is coming from your school taxes. We have to find another way to fund our schools. It cannot be sustained on the backs of property taxes. I don't see that continuing the way it's doing now. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we have got to find a solution. And I have gone to Washington, I have lobbied, I have talked to legislators, I have spent a lot of time up there looking for money for bridges, roads. When as a Munson Township trustee for 9 years, my main concern was paving every single road in Munson Township, and we did just that. And we didn't do it with grants or anything else, we did it with our cash flow. And we were able to clean up all our roads, we were able to help our fire department and build a department that gave us an ISO rating of 6.3, a split ISO, which enabled all of our residents to have a lower tax rate. The next thing is, I think fracking is a big issue. I believe that fracking could be the economic boom for Ohio, but I am extremely concerned about our water. I want it done right. I want the wellheads put in strong and firmly. I've always been very interested in the environment, and I do know what happened in Bainbridge. Mr. Joe Haas, a company who does a lot of drilling here in Geauga County, was one of the people that we sent down there to tell us what went wrong. And what went wrong is when they put that wellhead, when they put that in there, it wasn't done right. And it seeped through, the gas seeped through, and that house virtually blew off its foundation. How would you like to live in a house with a tank in your garage, the entire size of your garage, for your water system? And those people were worried about whether their houses were worth anything. So those are the issues. I can try it.
We're talking about taxes, and Mary, you can take this one first. Geauga County's in the top 10% in taxes, and the user fees, which go to Columbus. What would you do about that?
Well, one of the things that I have done is, like I said, I have gone to Washington, I have lobbied, I have talked with every one of our legislatures that are up there, and then some. I've spent quite a few days up there going from building to building, and it's not an easy thing because they're not always ready to hear you. One of the legislatures I went in to talk with, I still remember this so vividly, went into Sherrod Brown's office, and I told one of their help, well, what was the issue? And he says, well, where did you hear that? I said, I heard it, I read it in the congressional record. It was in the congressional record. So sometimes we don't look into the obvious places, even when we're in that position to do that. So I think that we need to find it, like I said, we need these recorder fees that go over Columbus, the fees that go from the juvenile court, the municipal court. I mean, the health department, I've got a list here that goes on for 2 pages that tells you where all your fees are going to Columbus. They are putting it on our backs so they can balance their budget. We always have balanced our budget here in Geauga County, but since they can't, they're going to make it more, they're going to put it more onto us. And the local government fund's going to go away, and a lot of our townships, Geauga County is a township-based county. We have 16 townships, and they have depended on that, and a lot of that's going away. And I know here in Munson, you know, we never counted on it. We were okay, but there's small places that do, like Clarendon Township, they look for that. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I know one thing, the state will continue to bring to balance their budget, they will balance it on our backs. You can count on it.
Okay. Any other issues? No, did you have any?
No, you're kind of
Okay.
Just a question again.
Ask the question again? Yeah, you didn't get the copies. Geauga County's in the top 10% in the nation of property taxes, and there are also user fees, which are really hidden taxes, which we pay to Columbus. What would you do, if anything, about this?
Well, since Geauga County is one of the top paying taxes in the state of Ohio, and as far as the state has done the major cost shifting with the townships, and I can speak on the townships because we lost our inheritance money, local government fund, and Burton Township has lost 3 years ago 20,000, now 40, now 60,000. And one of the answers to that in the township world is to collaborate with neighboring townships to save taxpayers money to be more productive. And collaboration is, I call it the Geauga County collaboration, where 2 or 3 townships or neighboring townships can save money because there's so much money being taken away. There's legislatures down in Columbus that wants any township with $2 million budget or less to merge together. And local government is the purest form of democracy. So why should we have 2 or 3 or 4 townships merge together and only have 3 representatives? That's bad. So in Geauga County, I'm a big promoter of collaboration in the township world. If you get on skinnyohio.com, somewhere in there is the little agreement that Newberry and Burton made that I pushed for. Is just a boom mowing situation. Burton Township couldn't afford $140,000 piece of equipment. Newberry purchased one 2 years previous. I call up, how long do you use that machine? They says 3 weeks out of the year, 3-4 weeks out of the year. What do you do with it when you don't use it? It sits there and they make the payments. So we made a deal, 3-page agreement through the Geauga County Prosecutor's Office, and for 2 or 3 weeks we used their boom mower, but they sent their boom mower over there, operated, and we paid for the fuel. Those township trustees could stand up and say that we made $6,400 off of Burton Township. Burton Township got more boom mowing done in 2 or 3 weeks than in a 10-year period. And we didn't have to pay $140,000. We paid $6,400. Newberry Township trustees stood up and said to their residents, we made $6,400 to help make the payments. So these are just some of the ways that when the state keeps cost shifting and taking money away from you, again, in the township world. So there's a lot of creative ways. I mean, one of the things the state did was we're allowed to use independent auditors to audit our books. But instead of having the state auditors come up from Columbus and they're on state, they're employees. But now could cost more money because they're independent contractors doing the audits. And we had their choice. But that's it. Thank God for the bill.
Okay, Mr. DeVore,
Yeah.
explain why you are a Democrat.
I'm a Democrat. Well, first of all, I was raised, my mom's side of the family's Republicans, my dad's side of the family's Democrat. And in that house, we had a lot of conversation. We had a lot of compromise, and we accomplished a lot. And my mom and dad had 6 kids, and we did quite well for ourselves. And I'm a Blue Dog Democrat, and a lot of times when I vote in Burton Township, I'm more conservative than my partners. But I always feel that I'm using somebody else's money, and when I was in junior high, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents because I stayed there because the junior high was a couple blocks away, and I played basketball, and my mom and dad lived like 8 miles away, and gasoline was 19 cents a gallon at the time, and they weren't going to haul me all over town to pick me up after basketball. So I stayed with my grandparents, and my grandfather told me, if you want something, you have to go out and get it. You have to work for it. So a lot of times in my life I've had 2 or 3 jobs, and yes, I'm a conservative. I worked with my tools as a bricklayer. My wife and I sent 4 kids to college on $35,000 or less every year. So I'm a registered Democrat, and I'm a hard worker.
Good.
Yes.
I'm a Republican, and I have been a Republican my entire life. I have voted Republican since I was able to vote Republican, and in my time it was 21. So when I became 21, I started voting. My parents were all Republicans. I understand that my grandfather at one time was a councilman in Euclid, and my mother would tell me about that. My mom and dad came through the Depression, and I heard that my whole life, what it was like to live when you couldn't get sugar and you couldn't get flour and you lived on much less. And my mom was a penny pincher. She lived on Social Security. She made $1,200 a month, and she saved half of it. When she passed away, there were 5 of us. I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. They couldn't believe that she had saved all that. But that was what she did, and I believe, I'm a Republican because, number one, I believe in the Constitution. I swore to the Constitution. I'm a conservative. I was raised Catholic. I went to Ursuline Academy of the Sacred Heart, and I later graduated from Kent State University, as I said. And I believe a Republican is about fiscal responsibility. When I went to school, I worked 2 jobs to do it. I had an infant in tow, and I remember being in class, and the professor had asked me, "Where were you last week?" And I said, "Well, I had a baby last week. I couldn't get here." And he said, "No excuses, you know." But I was so grateful that I was able to go to school because my brother, my oldest brother, he graduated from college, and then my second brother, he went to an associate degree, and my sister became an opera singer, and she graduated, and my youngest brother, of course, ended up going on to school, and he graduated with a master's. And so I was happy that I was able to do that, and being a Republican is in my soul. I'm very fiscally tight with the money. My husband will tell you, he told me today, "My gosh, why do we have to live like we did in 1967 when we got married?" I said, "Well, I don't know any other way." And I've done that with my business. I did this as a township trustee. We had no debt at Munson, and when I became a county commissioner, we talked about we were not going to put this debt on our grandchildren, and we were not going to put it in a grant. So we decided to go with renewable notes, and because of that, we have saved millions in interest, millions of your tax dollars. And that's why I'm a Republican. I care about people, but I feel you've got to play by the rules, you've got to pull your own weight, and it's important that, you work for the good of the people.
Thank you. Good timing.
Come on up, Chris. The next context was the remaining seat for Commissioner Chris Lackner, the Democrat. Ralph Spitaleri could not make it, so we're going to ask Chris the same questions, same time frame, and I think it's going to end up giving us more time for general questions if anybody has it.
You want me to play Ralph? I'd love to answer these questions, but trust me, I have a different set of answers. I'm sorry.
You don't get a voice, sorry.
I'd love to play Ralph.
Okay, quiet.
How y'all
You're going to give us a
doing
3-minute shot here on this.
My name's Christopher Lackney. I'm running for county commissioner, as you know. Basically, I just spent the last about 6 years of my life educating myself. I just recently graduated from Hiram College with a major of political science, a minor in public leadership, and another minor in international studies, and I did that in 2 years. And I have 2 years of criminal justice education in Catawba Valley in North Carolina at CVCC Community College. And basically I'm a huge student of the Constitution. Love the Constitution, love the amendments. I was trained in the Constitution by a 31-year veteran of the City of Hickory Police Department, and he was just a masterful teacher of how the Constitution applies to mostly police type endeavors, but in general, what the amendments mean, how it relates to police work, and how it relates to the general public, and also how it relates to the private sector in its interactions with people, and the kind of things that the private sector can do and can't do, like businesses, loss prevention, things like that. I got like a 97% in loss prevention, like store work, setting up situations where you try to catch shoplifters, things like that. But my education here at Hiram has been my really main focus for the last few years. Like I just graduated in May, so I've I'm a self-made man, pretty much. I've done that. I worked at Kraft Made for 15 years, moved to North Carolina, worked in the furniture industry. I understand how industry works. Try to expand that into now knowing basically how business works, the things that we need to do to keep our businesses prosperous in these communities. My focus is job creation. I understand Mr. Jameson on those issues a great deal, and I want to be able to be a person that's part of the solution, not part of the problem. If I get elected to this, I want to form coalitions like Tom talked about. I was really happy to speak with Tom and we talked about coalitions, we talked about our economic problems in this country, and we have a lot of things in common. And I really appreciate him reaching out to us to try to form these coalitions. They're going to help this country to develop, in this county specifically, jobs and just fellowship, partnership. I have nothing but love for all you people. Mary is a great woman, and all the people of this county. I grew up here. Everything has been about this county for me in my life, and I spent time in other parts of the country and learned how things are done in other countries and all these kind of issues that are important. This world is a growing globe. We are part of a global economy.
Well, the first question kind of leads into that. You can expand on that because we're asking you to explain the responsibilities of the county commissioner and how you would fulfill those roles.
Basically, the county commissioners, we are the basic chief executives of Geauga County. It's very much our responsibility to distribute and administer somewhere around $26 to $30 million in funds. We're responsible for the dog warden, the sheriff, waterworks, many other kind of services. We have to do our very best to vigorously review these processes and the systems that lead to building of future systems and processes that are going to scale down cost. They're going to bring us much greater savings in the future, and those savings, like Mr. Jameson said, building some budgets, building some funds, like for revolving loans and things like this. And we need to tighten the budgets. There's no question of that. It's very crucial for the sustainability of Geauga County, not just Geauga County, but also the government of Geauga County. The sustainability of our budgets, of our programs, of all the things that we do. It's been a conservative. I respect these people. These people have done a good job. I'm not here to say and criticize people or anything like that. We talked a little bit about we need that revolving fund money out there working in the communities, creating businesses, small businesses. I want to focus on businesses of 50 people or larger. And to me, I grew up in those kind of circumstances. I worked at Kraft Made for 15 years. When I started there, it was a $50 million company. When I left there, it was a $700 million company. Kraft Made right now is having problems. They've lost work. Their funds have been decreasing. And if we can do something, we've got to keep that company here. We've got to keep Great Lakes Cheese. These are the places, these are our big employments. So if we can do things to help companies that are struggling, we need to do that also. Mary was talking about the cost of schools. I could go through this room and ask people, do you want the federal government to fund your schools? Most of you are going to shake your head and say no, okay? But I'm telling you the truth. If we can get more money from the federal government to fund our schools, we need to do so. Because like she said, we don't have enough money the way it is to take care of our schools. We've got to find ways, and if we have to give up and we have to take more money from the federal government, we need to do so to give our schools and our students the best chances of survival. That's all I have on that.
Okay. In your opinion, you already kind of alluded to this, but you want to add on to it the top 3 issues that are most important to the Geauga County residents and how how you plan to address that.
In my opinion, number one, we've got stagnant job growth, we have a lack of economic growth, and we have shrinking wages throughout our county and basically throughout the state and in a lot of places in this country. And we really need to do those types of things that will stimulate jobs. I have a tax plan that is cutting taxes for small, medium, large businesses. This tax plan, I believe, is one of the pieces to this large array of problems that we have. And this tax plan will not only help businesses, but it'll help the middle class in this country. And that's a big problem, is our tax base is going down, is probably going to continue to grow down because we don't have as high wages. They're not growing, they're stagnant. So if you can give money to a company that hires people, say for 1 year, they're going to get a property tax cut, okay, of a certain amount that will be determined as I try to develop this plan with my fellow commissioners when I get elected. So we need to address shrinking wages. We need to do whatever we can to sustain and build our middle class, and the private sector has to do its part. Government can only do so much. We criticize the government, but private sector also has to kick in, start jobs, build jobs, grow companies. Okay, and if we can do whatever we can do to help the private sector with grants, loans, whatever it takes to get businesses to come to this town and this area and create an atmosphere where business will flourish. And we will get back to that point where Kraft made, when they started growing, Great Lakes Cheese started growing, where we get that kind of atmosphere where people want to get this area as their home for their businesses. That's really what we really need to focus on in the long run. I want to do everything I can to make sure that we grow jobs here. And I just really wanted to thank a couple of people. Joanne, Ryan has helped me also to figure out ways to pay for my plans too. First of all, with the tax cut, you're going to have a situation where you're going to gain tax dollars from hiring new people, more people. And then within the government, there are ways to tighten things up, okay? To cut things in different ways. So I want to try to continue to look for those ways to create opportunities for more employment in this county.
Perfect timing. Okay. We started to talk about taxes. This third question leads into that. Geauga County's in the top 10% in property taxes, and then there's the user fees, which we have to send to Columbus, hidden taxes. So what would you do, if anything?
This particular problem I thought about quite a bit, and there was some good advice given by the people that talked for me. But specifically, I would want to take these fees and isolate exactly. I want to know where they're going, first of all, and I want to form coalitions between the counties to try to build bigger resistance for these things. If they need to be paid and they're for good causes, we should pay them, okay? But if they're things that really burden our county and other counties, we need to form large coalitions and take it to Columbus and try to grow support for this. And take it to Washington. But the bigger the coalition, the stronger the force of what you're trying to accomplish. So I've just recently come from college, and I know basically we were taught the most newest techniques in like communications, focus groups. This is what our county needs to do. We need to get focus groups, more focus groups, to try to reach in and use all minds within the government and in the private sector as well to create solutions to some of our more difficult problems. And I know that's easy enough for me to sit up here and say, but we have to go out there and do it and be teams, be one cohesive unit as a government. support each other, not stab each other in the back and talk about each other and point fingers. When you take all blame, put it aside, work together as teams, do the best we can to solve our problems in this county. And this is the kind of stuff. Build these coalitions with other counties, reach in, try to find out what we have in common, and then take those coalitions, take them to Columbus, take them to Washington, and petition to have these things first to freeze the cost, that it doesn't go up. These fees, taxes, any of these kind of things, freeze the cost of it to begin with. And then, as counties, when we decide that it needs to be reduced, then we go after it with big bunches of people, big bunches of government legislature to try to attack these things, because one person is not going to do it. And these are the things really at my college level that I learned as far as like really building coalitions, working together as teams, presentations, these kind of things within our government. And I'd like to talk a little bit about school, but I might be able to get to do that in the next part. Okay.
Last question is, why are you a Democrat? My grandfather taught me from the time I was a little boy. He said to me, whoever is that president that's in office at that time, whether he was a Democrat, but whenever that president, he's Republican or a Democrat, doesn't matter. You support that president. If you want to criticize him after he's out of office, do what you will. But when he's in there, he's our president. And it doesn't matter if it's George Bush, Barack Obama, or whoever it is, I'm going to support the president that's in there. And I'll criticize him if I want when he's done with that job, because the pressure is amazing, incredible upon anybody who's in that office. The reason that I'm a Democrat, I kind of got these two things, pre-Arizona and after Arizona. I spent the majority of 9 months working in San Diego. I traveled across the border every day and worked in Tijuana, in the industrial district. It was La Presa. And I worked for RSI Home Products. This was in 1998 and 99 and 2000. I saw what those people live like down there. I saw the suffering that they go through every day. And then when I went to North Carolina, there were a lot of illegals, honestly, working in places all over. But I'm going to tell you something, it's no fun being an illegal alien. You can guarantee that. These people would pay $5,000, I'm going to tell you straight up, these people would pay $5,000 for a set of papers, and when they discovered, that they were illegal, they're fired. That $5,000, it's out the drain, basically. And, I learned to understand the difficulties that they went through. And when the first Arizona law that came out, the wording of it was some of the most fascist material I've seen in my life. It was like you could take a cop and go up into a school auditorium with a bunch of Mexican people up there in that auditorium, and their son would be playing basketball, say on a team. They could go up there and ask those people for their papers in the original version of this law. And I was like, I can't, and the fact is, it's not so much the law at that time, but it's the thinking that goes behind it. Can you write that, and can you be determined to go up into a gymnasium and call out people when their son's on a basketball court playing? I couldn't accept that. The courts have stripped that down. But if they didn't, what would it be like in this country? And where would we be going? Thank you. Tom, do we have a response from Ralph, from Mr. Spitaleri to the question?
We don't have anything about it.
Are we going to, do you know if we're going to get that we can put on our webpage, his answers?
I'll see if you can send that in to us.
All right.
Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask anybody?
Why don't you bring the candidates all up and let them...
That's what they will bring them up if they have questions. Yes, let's see.
So fill those minutes.
Please, ma'am. As one of my questions that you remember, if you say pretty please, I remember.
Yes, Carl has a question. Go ahead, stand up, ask a question.
Mr. Jameson, to you, please, or to anyone who wishes to answer, but talk about jobs being the most important thing in jobs. Have the county commissioners, or can they do something to help promote the vocational school out on Auburn Road? I mean, everybody wants to go to college, but there are a ton of college people flipping hamburgers right now. I'm not against college, but I'm gonna tell you, a month and a half ago, I had to hire a plumber. It'd have been cheaper to hire a Philadelphia lawyer. Is there anything you can do to help promote that and get people to understand there's good jobs to be had out there?
You know, it's very difficult, and that was one that, when I was on the Berkshire School Board, we wrestled with, because we were a member of the Auburn Career Center, and, you know, the problem is that they, you know, these kids, they go to school for nine years with their classmates, and then the sophomore year, they start to Auburn, and it's hard to get them to understand to leave their classmates or whatever to go there. Well, you're exactly right. Auburn's doing a wonderful job. The problem we have is if we have children who go through college prep and then don't go to college, they're lucky to get a job at McDonald's. So if you go to Auburn, though, you can come out. They're bringing out machinists that graduate making $30, $35 an hour. And when you talk about plumbers, I'll tell you, I often think it's cheaper to go pay a dentist than a plumber. And no. But you're exactly right. That's something we do need to work with. I can tell you that we have Auburn at the table with our One Stop. They're one of our partners because they do adult education and retraining, and so we are reaching out with them that way. But you're exactly right. You know, not every child is going to go to college. We all as parents hope all our children go to college, but there's times you got to recognize that's not going to be, and I'm telling you, you can get a good job coming out of Auburn.
Do you know what their placement rate is?
I do not.
I would add that one of the problems with our country is that in Europe, they have an apprenticeship. When a student is in school, they're already starting to learn their trade, whatever it be. And so they're ready right out of the box. I taught at Auburn School, so I know what it was like. And I always believe, my dad used to always say, it's okay, Mary, if you take a college prep, but make sure you have something else that you can do, because you never know. When you have a family, you may have to go to work. And in my time, back in the early 60s, a lot of the women were home. But you know, that changed. Today it takes two people who are earning a living, and you need a trade. You need a trade. You know, my husband and I talk about it. How many things do you have broken in your house? Wouldn't you just love to have a handyman come in and just fix everything? I mean, who does that?
I do.
You do? Yeah, there you go.
On that Auburn Career Center, I talked to trade school with the bricklayers up in Lake Geauga, Asheville County through Auburn Career Center, and I got to use the classroom periodically. And one of the things that I saw in between 1982 and 91 was that Auburn was drifting away from the actual building trades part, and they were going a little bit more high-tech. And I'm currently on the Maplewood Career Center, which is in Portage County, and in most of the, I don't want to say most, but probably 35 to 40% of the trade ed schools in the state of Ohio specifically have a carpentry class, a bricklaying class, electrical class. Auburn has a construction class where you learn a little bit, 2 or 3 weeks, or let's say a month as bricklaying, a month as a carpenter. But on a big job, you talk to a bricklayer and say, would you want to work with the electricians for a while? Again, back to the productivity. That person is not going to be productive. And that's part of the reason why maybe the job rate is not that strong in the Auburn Career Center. Maybe. So.
It's a good point.
Dave, go ahead.
I'd like to ask you a question. When you were speaking, you talked about taking a grant. From where I sit, grants come from somewhere in Washington, it just adds to our national debt. I realize that taking grants and that money that's available starts at the top and has to work down, but eventually we have to pay for it. You know, under what conditions would you take a grant?
Are you talking directly about education,
Just a grant, whether it's to buy a new
or
fire
for
engine
business, or for anything like
put in a
that?
septic system for the city or whatever?
Or for a company that wants to start up or things like that? We definitely, have to look toward, smaller federal budgets, okay? That's a given. But the more we develop business, okay, you can talk to people that start new businesses, whether they're Democrats or Republicans that start the business. A good part of them are all, like, there were people that spoke at the Republican convention, which I've been watching. They were all talking basically like negative about grants that they took, a lot of the people, okay? So if we don't give grants and things like that for business, I would concede the fact that we are going to continue to regress economically as a country. I specified the fact that private sector has to step up. They got to take their loans from, business. They got to take loans. They're going to get grant and a loan. They're going to get all kinds of different things if they put in for it. But I believe we have to do those things, and we have to do everything we can to foster business. I mean, we've got factories all over this country that can be retrofitted for businesses. So say, if the government of North Carolina knows about those factories, and we can contribute to that factory being filled in some way by giving people money or having to pay back the money, however you want to do it. We have got, I see no limit. I wouldn't limit anything that creates jobs at this point.
You're okay with that, even though it would put us further into debt?
It would depend on how, yes.
Mike?
This is a follow-up to that. I mean, as a conservative, and I think everybody up there says they're conservative, we are $16 trillion in debt as a country. That debt alone is bigger than the whole GDP of the whole country. How are we going to pay that off, and what legacy are we going to leave our grandchildren if we keep on taking grants, number one? But number two, to the issue that you're all running for county commissioner, what are you going to do when the federal government collapses for the county, if it collapses? Are you have some plans to make sure that this community, you all live in this community, you all love it, just like we do in this room. But what plans are you making to secure the community, if any? Or would you make any plans?
To actually, is that for me?
Who's
For all, any of them.
I would just say, number one, half of our money comes from sales tax. The other, we're heavily reliant upon property tax. That's the other area. As far as grants are concerned, if it dries up, it dries up. We do with less. I think we should have less government. I think the federal government should have to balance the budget in the same way that we have to balance the budget. We've had to do that every year, and it doesn't make any difference. If you don't have the money for this, you just don't do it. And I think if that starts at the federal level, whatever happens, happens. That's the way we have to live. We have to live within our means. I have believed that my entire life. You live within what you have. You don't go outside.
So my question is what...
What will we do to make it better?
I mean, if, not yet, but when, we can't make our obligations as a federal government to the foreign countries that we owe money to, our enemies at this point in time.
Exactly.
Which we're borrowing 40 cents on every dollar, we're borrowing it from our foreign countries, which are basically our enemies. Saudi Arabia, China, all those people, Germany. I mean, what...
Well, one of the big costs is Medicare.
But what are you going to do to for this community, Geauga County, to preserve it, and protect it? Do you have any plans to preserve and protect it? That's my question.
You're saying without, if there's no grants
There's
out
no
there.
grants.
There's no
We'll live
grants,
within
there's
what
no,
we have.
the federal government collapses and goes bankrupt. Do you have any plans? Are you working with the sheriff? Are you working with people in our community, emergency response teams, to keep
Yes.
the people safe in Geauga County?
We
That's
have
my question.
emergency, we just went to a dry run drill, and we'll have another drill just coming up, but that's for nuclear powered disasters, but it's also for other disasters too. Those plans have been in place for many, many years, and we do it every other year, we do a
That's
complete drill.
emergency response.
That's
Would that be
emergency
considered
response, but
emergency?
it also goes for if you have tornadoes, things that would cause major disasters here, any kind of real disaster, we would deploy that. And that is in place. Now, as far as the money, if we don't get money for our roads and bridges, okay, there's one. We pay all this gas tax money, we pay $8 million a year. We pay, you pay, every time you go to the gas pump. We get back $3 million for our roads and bridges. We managed to do it on that. If we don't have it, we'll have to go to the people, I guess.
Well,
People are already putting it in the pot.
I know that. So what are you going to do?
And I think that's the problem. We
That's
are
the stop.
definitely, we are a donor county.
We're donors.
And, you know, I think that Skip and I, we have this philosophical difference on these grants every meeting, because we're always talking about grants. And, you know, my theory is it's got to be a trickle down. It's got to stop at Washington, take less of our money, then we'll have more of our own money to be able to do
Yeah, but
things.
trickle
with.
down never- has
It's
never
not
worked
gonna-
in our county.
I'm going to tell you right
Bottom
now.
up.
Talked to a county commissioner in another county the other day. I said, you know what, we're talking about grants. He said, you guys stop taking grants, that's fine, because we're going to take all of it. We'll take all your money. You know, well, I don't know about you, but I don't want our taxpayers' dollars going there. But let's talk about another grant that we just did the other day, because I think the word grant is a little misused. We took a grant the other day, it was about $5,800, and it was for the Department on Aging, and it was to help seniors with their balance, okay? And what I looked at that was a program that the federal government wanted someone in Geauga County to perform. And why? Because I'm sure that if one senior doesn't fall, it's a lot cheaper to give us $5,800 to save a senior from falling, someone on Medicare, and break a hip. They're going to spend far more money. So, but I don't consider that a grant. I consider that a stipend, because they're paying us to provide that service. And so many times I think the word grant is being misused in those areas. But I'm going to be quite honest with you. It starts at the top. Our money will just end up
Mike,
in
we
Ashtabula County.
We elect those officials in Columbus and in the
Right.
federal government. We, the people, elect them. And we have to hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
Take that stuff out of the budget.
Absolutely.
But we go time after time. Now, Tracy, you said you've been in there for 30 years in politics, and I respect you for that. But when is it going to be enough time to say, for us people to say enough is enough? We want to stop. It's got to stop someplace. It stops at the local level. Then it goes up to the state level and the federal level.
I disagree. It's got to start at the top.
Well, I don't understand how you guys can keep on saying grant money is free when we're.
No, we never said that. I never said it was free. What I'm telling you is, I'm not saying it's free. What I'm telling you is, we're getting back some of our taxpayers' money that we had to send to Washington. I just as soon not send it.
It's not sent.
Exactly.
But the thing is, I don't know that we want to sit in jail.
I would,
You would sit in jail?
absolutely,
Okay. Remember that.
absolutely.
You be my jail person.
Mr.
Jail for
DeBoer,
it.
how can you be a conservative and a Democrat?
It's like a moderate Republican and a conservative Democrat.
There's no such thing as a lot of Republicans.
What's the difference? Well, a lot of people in Washington are like that, so.
He's right. I'm telling you the truth, he's conservative. I'm around him a lot. He is conservative.
Anybody else, go ahead.
Jim,
How you doing,
I am good.
Mr.
You're not
Work?
gonna like my question.
That's fine.
One, you are operating the Township Road Department 1/3 left.
Yes.
One comment, our road shows it.
Okay.
It's been a washboard all summer. They graded it. 3 weeks later, it's a washboard again. And I've talked to you before.
Right.
I've talked to the commissioners.
Right.
I've talked to the trustees, and we just keep sending people out there to do job, and it never gets done right.
You know.
And I don't,
I'm glad you
know
brought
how
that
you're gonna do that
to
with
my
less
attention.
people.
We can zoom in on that road. We've been all over the township.
Well, I like-
We purchased a maintainer that would pull behind a truck.
Well, that will help, and I
For-
suggested that a year ago, and I suggested at the trustees meeting.
And we purchased one.
That's good. I'd like to see, I'll be anxious to see it operate.
Okay.
I would just
I'll knock
add
on your
that.
door.
And I like Mary's comment,
In
that
Munson-
they paved all the roads.
Well, in Munson
in my-
Township, what we did, this is exactly what happened. The clerk had all this money in her budget, okay? And every year, the budget would come up. It's the trustee's job to start zero-based budget. So we said to her, shake out that budget and we'll fill in the slots. So we did, and we went through this. It took Frankly and I were on the board that time. She said, what are we doing? I said, we're going to go through the whole budget and we're going to see where our money is. I said, somewhere there's missing money. We're missing money. So we went through that budget, and she wasn't hiding anything. What she did is, she padded each one of those accounts, like double. We said, why are you doing that? Well, we shook out $1.3 million out of that budget. And I looked at him, I said, can we do the roads now? And I told Jim, line up those roads, and we're going to do every one of those roads in Munson Township. To me, that is the #1 job of a trustee, is to do the roads. Everything else comes afterwards. That's what we did.
Okay.
My question is for all the candidates. I'd like to know whether this is going to be a full-time job if you're elected, or whether you also have another business, or you're retired, or whatever.
I'm retired, and yes, I have no other obligations. I will devote as much time as is necessary.
I had a computer consulting business from 1985. I had over 20 employees to 2004 when I became a county commissioner. Well, before, I saw it coming, I downsized, and now my company is no longer, I still am with the Secretary of State, but I told everyone, I am going to do this. I see conflict, because you go and visit other businesses, and I'm going to tell you, half the business I visit, they were my customers at one time. I wrote their programs, I set up their systems, I went around the world to put up networks. I says, you can't do both, you can't serve two masters. So, no, I've worked full-time at it, and it is a full-time job. We may not be in the office, but we're home, we're studying, we're going to meetings, we're going to Cleveland, we're going here, we're going there. I mean, you're busy. It's a full-time job.
It is a full-time job for me as well. I do have a part-time job that I do as an IT consultant. My hours are, I sleep from midnight till 6 in the morning, and so sometimes I'm still up at 2. But anyway, I do a little bit for a company my wife works for, and because I enjoy the IT, and that was my background, I like to stay in it.
It'll be a 40, 50, 60-hour-a-week job for me. I gave up on like the other stuff that I could have done. I wanted to work for Amnesty International. I wanted to work for UNICEF. But I was asked by Terry Carson to run for this position. And I decided that serving this county, if I could, would be the best thing that I can do to give back to the community. And I grew up here. I want this place to do well. I want the people of this county to do well. And I believe that I can provide initiative and environment to cause people here to do well. And that's what I want to do, is help this county and help the people of this county in whatever capacity I can fill.
If elected, I'll be leaving my full-time job and concentrate on being county commissioner. And it'd be a pleasure just working for everybody and staying in the county. Because currently, I cover the whole state of Ohio. And so, if I'm successful and I leave the county, it'd be called a vacation. So.
Fred, did you ever say anything? You want to comment on that, Fred?
Well, no, I did.
I'm sorry.
Just let it off.
Okay.
Across the board, just a brief answer. Do you have any recommendations or comments for a better informed citizenry taxes are very high, and I feel oftentimes people vote on the motion or don't really understand what they're voting on. And I just wonder if you have any recommendations for the citizens to be better informed so that they make wise decisions at the voting. Like, for instance, I personally was opposed to the library tax because it's a forever tax. And when people are losing their homes, they realize this is a forever tax. So I just wonder if you have recommendations on the way to have the citizens more informed.
Well, I think that it's very important for citizens to be informed of what their tax money is doing, what the needs are, and certainly meetings like this are excellent. This is why when Tom called, I was really very happy to participate. This magnified by 10. It's too bad that we couldn't be meeting maybe in one of the school auditoriums where there are several hundred seats and we draw in crowds like this. It has to be supplying the opportunities for people to learn and also making people aware of the fact that, yes, these opportunities are here, this is important, this is your money, this is your community. Please attend to it.
Well, one of the things that we did as county commissioner just recently, there was a mental health tax that was going to be put together, 0.75 and a 0.25, or is it a 0.50? 0.5 and a 0.25. And they were going to put it together, coalesce it together. They said, well, it's an old tax and just an added extra. I said, well, wait a minute. These are two taxes. This is an existing and this is a new. We would like you to separate it. And we want you to know that we will vote no when it comes to us. And we went to their meeting and this is what we talked about. When they realized we were going to vote no, they separated the tax. The taxpayer has to have the right to know if it's an add-on, if it's an add tax, or if it's a renewal. Separate them. Don't put them together. Keep them separate. I'd also suggest go to your school board, listen. Go to the park board, talk to Mike. Talk to Mike. I did that the other day. We had lunch. Tell me what's going on. What is going on? Talk to your library. Go and see it. Try to find ways. Because, believe it or not, we all pay taxes. I told you what I pay in property tax, you faint. I've been fainting. I never believed in my life I'd pay that kind of property tax. I thought when I had my house paid for, I was done. Oh, no. You don't pay your taxes, I'll take your house away from you. Right? They'll take your house away from you. And that's something that it's unsustainable. There'll be a time that we will all be retired. Will we be able to sustain the tax burden that we have now?
When you were township
Trustee?
We used to get a regular newsletter, like twice a year.
We sent out the newsletter, right?
Yes. And that's where I first saw your name.
Yes.
Writing some of the articles.
We wrote all about...
Can we do more of that kind of thing?
We could do that at the county level, but we're always concerned about, what is the cost? The township, our first letter, we put it together, and Judy helped us, and, we talked about all the issues, we had a bridge that we were fighting over. You remember the bridge. We don't want them to do anything with that. We fought. Honestly, I had to make friends with the county engineer when I became county commissioner, because I fought with him so much when I was trustee. But, that's what happens, because you're fighting for your residents.
But you were communicating.
Well, we try.
I don't feel at the county level we're doing that.
Well, maybe there's something we can do. I don't know, Trace.
Well, anyway, I'll
Let
address
Trace ask.
that question. I think maybe I can address yours at the same time. But first off, go to your school board meetings, go to the library board meetings. Go, I think that an informed citizen. Come to our meetings. I'm going to tell you, we have 30, 40 chairs there, and it's probably
we got Walter.
We got Walter.
And we got Chris. Where's Chris?
Comes all the time.
We got Chris, and we've got the little...
But, come and hear what we're doing too, but not just all the other ones, but get involved in your government. What's that?
Come to the fair tomorrow for free.
Right.
For free at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
Just so you know, that's a timestamp. Our meetings only last, well, they used to last half hour, now they're about an hour, we'll skip there. But,
Why is the sky blue?
you're only gonna get it in the fair for about an hour, just so you know. But anyway, then look at their financial reports. You know, every entity has to produce a financial report. Look at that financial report. And if you don't understand that financial report, go to the treasurer or the auditor or whoever the clerk for that township or whatever, and ask questions. You know, that's how you're going to get involved. You're going to find out what your government about. I'm going to tell you, I've been involved for 30 years in government, and it's not, and the people I've been associated with, for the most part, have all been forthright, up front, and really just wanting to do a good job. And that's what I think makes Geauga County great. It makes it what it is. Most of the time, everybody just wants to serve the taxpayers in the best way they can. So, but anyway, but still, don't take that. You need to go and get involved yourself. You know, so.
One question, go ahead.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, I've been very pleased with the discussion here. I do have to express my own sense of frustration at the level of township participation from which I come. And while I was so honored to hear you commend the people here to participate and to learn as much as they can, I really must share, and it's not a good thing to share, but I really must share with people here, gathered here, that what you have represented doesn't happen at all townships. And we are still dealing in this county with elements who would rather say to those who are interested and motivated and determined to learn more, the absolute quote is, "No one else gives a damn about this crap, why should you?" And that came from a fiscal officer.
Where do you hear that?
That is the truth. I will stand by it. I will swear to it. And you folks know who Tom Jones is and who Diane Jones is.
They are there, they bring their
Yep.
camera. I always ask, where's your camera?
Right. And I think we are known as reasonable people to most people around here. But I will share with you, at the township level where I come from and where I try to participate, I have been assaulted twice at public meetings. And you know who I am, what size I am, and typically the level of questions I ask, and they are reasonable. So while what you have said here is so honorable and so respectable and so applaudable, I need you to know on a realistic basis that it does not exist countywide, and there are pockets of problems in this county. Thank you for your patience.
Her question has not been finished. Sir, you're out of order. Her question has not been finished. Three people have answered her question, the last two have not.
They stopped talking.
Okay.
You guys did?
Me and Jim.
Well, go ahead.
I appreciate that question an awful lot because there were a number of issues that I felt that if you didn't, if the local county or city did not educate the people, that they would just not ever get that knowledge. And I proposed in the North Carolina papers that I wrote, things that I did, is to form, I would gladly help organize free things like this. You can get speakers for free. You can get, we are the most uneducated people on the rest of this world. And the global economy, the things that we're all having to, I would do this when I get elected, I'll do this, and I'll do this for free. I'll do this for you, for everybody here. Whoever wants issues will start deciding. We get a committee together, we get people together, and decide what things we want to teach on. But we are grossly undereducated on the rest of this world and how it applies to Americans, how it applies to business, how it applies to everything we do, how the global economy, we're all part of it. And we can't do nothing about it. It's not going backwards. So anything that I can do, I want to have a transparent office. You come see me if I win. You come see me and I'll make it happen.
Okay, thanks. Jim, go ahead.
On that communication with the township trustees, and I just have to agree, you have to go to the meetings as many as you can. In Burton Township, we're starting a website, so our minutes will be posted. and have a calendar of like 3 months in advance to reach out to the people so they know simple things, at least when trash day is, and so on and so forth. Now, as president of the Township Association, I've been to a lot of Township Trustees meeting and invited people to join as associate members in the Township Association. And I attended South Russell, I went to villages in the city of Chardon, and invited them to come in to our forum, because all of us is our local government. We all have the same problems, the same issues. If we could share ideas, collaborate from time to time to save taxpayers' money, that's what I'm looking for. I even went to the park board and gave a presentation on a closeout fishing excursion for the autism children. But then after that, at the end of the meeting for open comments, I invited the park board to have one associate member to the Geauga County Township Association for collaboration. If there's so much land that's owned by the park board, if they need a job done with a brush hog or backhoe or whatever, why can't they pick up the phone and talk to that township superintendent instead of loading up their trailer and the equipment, going out there, and then all of a sudden it's 2:30, oh, we got to start cleaning up and go back to the where their shop is at. It's all about productivity, less movement, and to save taxpayers' money. So.
You're right, Jim, and I appreciate that comment. We haven't been able to go there yet.
Okay.
One more question. You have one.
One question. A couple years ago, I was considering running for trustee of my township. I'm a businessman, I'm a trained accountant. I went there and I asked for the financials. I was handed a stack of papers like that. I could not make sense of it. Are your agencies at the townships, do they use any form of standard accounting?
Well, they have to, they use, most of them use what they call a uniform accounting network from the state auditor state, but they all have to put together a financial statement and balance sheet, and all has to, and those have to be done according to GAAP, General Accepted Accounting Principles. So, I don't know what, I guess I would like to look at those with you at some time, and maybe I could, clarify those or whatever, but.
Years ago, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not stupid, I sat there, I try to track the money, it's impossible.
That was one of the things when, we're required to report in what we call an accrual system, and we do what we call a CAF, or Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and we also, when I was county auditor, I put out a cash report, one that was done on cash, and it was called a citizens report, and then we would also mail one, we would also put one in the paper. But, so we wanted to try to make it, simple, but we wanted to make sure people understood how their tax dollars are being spent. And Auditor Glee has continued that practice, and I just read his citizen report yesterday. And I think I would suggest all of you, I'm sure it's online, you can download it, you don't have to even go to his office, or it'll be in the library somewhere soon. But anyway, look at that report. I think, it may help and give an idea of what maybe you can explain to your township to do or something.
That you publish?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
And if you have an accountant, like what you can explain to people how to look at a P&L statement. That's one of the things my accountant taught me when I started my business. I says, explain this to me. Why is making 20% good when I thought I was doing better at 90% when I worked by myself? And he explained to me, how a P&L statement works and how it, and that's something you could provide to a lot of our citizens and explain to them what they're looking at. Because
I'm busy running my business, right?
Yeah, that's what you do. Yeah, right. That's what you do.
When the government started for you?
No.
You didn't build it?
Did everybody enjoy the meeting tonight?
Yeah.
I think that all the candidates, every one of them, did a really good job tonight, and they deserve to have due consideration.